Well, good Thursday afternoon or good late morning. I'm trying to rush us along. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty channel. We're breaking down this case of Nancy Guthrie. But before we get started, I want to go back to some activism and some other stuff. So welcome, come on in. Let's start talking. We got a lot to go over and unpack with the newest interview with Chris Nanos. We're not done with that yet. So let's get started.
Bullhorn Betty rocks. Coffee steaming, files on the table. We clocking early, hunt what's unstable. Bullhorn Betty on the curb, voice raised. Flip-flop queen with the homemade phrase. Notebook thick, got the screenshots flag. Names in red ink, every rumor, every tag. Late night live stream, screen glow on her face. Truth in her throat, got a lawman's pace. She don't blink when the threats roll through. Come see me, she says, if you think that's cute. Bullhorn Betty in the coffee club. We hunt bad guys till the sun comes up. From the front porch steps to the courthouse rug. We fighting for the ones that they gave up. Bullhorn Betty in the coffee club. Sip that truth from a styrofoam cup. From the quiet streets to the madhouse buzz. We ain't letting go till we get that justice. Insane Asylum, that's our crew nickname. Laugh so loud while we track these names. Whiteboard wild with the webs we spin. Pen to pen, see the pattern sink in. Turmo shaking when the case goes cold. We stir it back up, won't do what we're told. Doorstep question, side eye stare. Where were you that night? We hanging right there. Bullhorn Betty in the coffee club. We hunt bad guys till the sun comes up. From the front porch steps to the courthouse rug. We fighting for the ones that they gave up. Bullhorn Betty in the coffee club. Sip that truth from a styrofoam cup. From the quiet streets to the madhouse buzz. We ain't letting go till we get that justice. This for the faces on the milk cart labels. This for the families praying at tables. This for the names that the news won't say. We say them out loud every single day. Every day. If you're running in the dark, better feel that fear. Betty got a bullhorn right in your ear. Coffee club crazy, but we think so clear. One small town, whole world gonna hear. Hey! Bullhorn Betty in the coffee club. We hunt bad guys till the sun comes up. From the front porch steps to the courthouse rug. We fighting for the ones that the day gave up. Bullhorn Betty in the coffee club. Sip that truth from a styrofoam cup. From the quiet streets to the madhouse buzz. We ain't letting go till we take red trust.
Well, good morning. I keep forgetting it's still morning. It's hard to believe I'm out of a meeting and it's still morning. I mean, we don't really have things like that, but they rushed, of course, the budget meeting through, whatever. They're like, anybody have comments? I mean, at this point, what difference does it make? So I'm like, just save the people money, whatever. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? So last night, you guys got a video instead of a live. I apologize about that, but I forgot I had a speaking engagement and I had to work on what I was going to be discussing at that meeting. As I was the watchdog, I might have misunderstood the instruction. That is all right. We gave, obviously somebody in the chat needed, or somebody out there needed to hear the message that I was putting down. I believe what I believe. You pray before you speak, and whatever you speak is what's supposed to be said. That's how I believe. I did do some planning. I did do some planning. So we're going to get into that first so you guys can be activated and hopefully inspired to do some more stuff in your community. Everybody has something in their community that they loathe, can't stand, want fixed. And sometimes you have to find the people, start watching your Board of County Commissioners or Board of Supervisor meetings, start understanding who is always there, and start reaching out and finding out help to start resolving some of those issues. You'll be probably shocked that there's probably an activist or an advocate in those rooms somewhere that are willing to help you get what you need to get done. So please utilize that for your benefit, and we'll just get right on into this so you guys can see it. We can get through it. I can't even remember how many minutes I spoke. So once I kind of get tired of hearing myself talk, I'll probably end it. Maybe we'll get to the end of it. Maybe we won't. So here we go.
Okay, so let me just make sure I understand how to work this. Okay. So good evening, everybody. I am Andrew Griffin. I'm a Manatee County activist. We go out.
Wow.
Glenn Gibellina's right back there. He's
Turn your volume down.
Actually, the person that I spoke to whenever I decided to start looking into changing some things, making an impact in Manatee County.
There we go. I kind of blasted my ear.
Getting a new board, which we have. And now we can all kind of talk about the big thing out loud. There's a reason why they're pushing this comp plan down our throats, okay? There's a reason why something that's not due until 2027 is being done now before we vote on a new commission. There's a reason for that. They want to make sure that they have control and that their builders and developers still maintain control of Manatee County. So that's the reality of this. This is a bipartisan issue, okay? So how many people in here are concerned about the future of Manatee County? Very good. So I can promise you we all come from different walks of life. This affects everybody here in Manatee County, okay? So I think the first thing we need to talk about is what is the role of government? What is the role of government? At the highest level, government exists to protect the public, maintain order, provide essential services, and preserve the rights of the people. Do you feel your current board is preserving your rights?
No.
In Florida, counties have the authority to carry out county government functions, including comprehensive planning, zoning, conservation programs. We're going to be talking about that in just a second. Certain public services, okay? That is their core responsibilities. These are core responsibilities of Manatee County.
So we don't need to go through the whole thing. I'm already tired of listening to myself. It is what I do. So this has been the first time that I publicly spoke at a Manatee County event in a really, really, really long time. And so I was definitely happy to be asked to go out there and have an opportunity to speak in front of bipartisan people. I mean, this wasn't a Republican or a Democrat type of initiative. This was a public initiative. And if you know anything about me, those are my favorite kind. Those are my favorite kind because I think it's an opportunity to reach out to people that wouldn't normally, you wouldn't normally be around or speak to or things like that, where you guys can really do some grassroots work in unifying, right? Because it's all about unity. And in order for us to be good neighbors, we need to be good neighbors. And hating ourselves over stupid crap is not how we get things done. And clearly it hasn't worked. So now it's time to inform everybody that we're all in the same boat. And that's what I like to try to do, is that we're all kind of in the same boat. And it takes all of us to help us out of this boat and, put our hand out behind us and pull that next person up. So anyways, I got an opportunity to do that yesterday, and definitely took that opportunity. So thank you guys for giving me just a few moments while I bent your ear on some of the activism. And the reason why I show you guys some of the activism that I do around here is because one of the main goals of this channel was never just to be solely a true crime channel. A lot of people there, I felt that there was a lot of true crime channels on this platform, but there was a lot of people complaining about crime. We saw firsthand, atrocities that humans can do to one another. and we have a fairly medium size, growing to a larger platform, which I'm very, very proud of. But I always felt that, and this goes all the way back to my political activism, the beginning of my political activism days, and what brought me into politics was the fact that I wanted to have my voice heard on criminal matters. I felt crime affected all of us. I felt this was something that, that gave me a unique advantage being, having some of the walk that I had. So this channel was never solely just about the activism. I learned a long time ago, you can complain about a lot of things, but unless you're willing to start doing something to change it, all we're going to be doing is complaining. And so one of the tools I thought would be different from or set our channel apart from other channels was the activism behind not just independent journalism, but the want to change the system, the want to improve the system, the want to make the system more fair, the want to expose why the system is so unfair, and that does typically come down to some type of corruption somewhere, some way. And I think exposing that, because people are struggling in this country, it puts a lot of stresses on people. Financial problems are the number one killer of families, right? It's not that they don't love each other, it's just they're down each other's throat because they can't make ends meet. And it just starts adding insult to injury. People are stressed out. Next thing you know, they're starting to drink. I mean, it's a whole host of stuff, and it's all because of the strains of money and other things that are taken care of elsewhere. But anyways, getting back to Miss Nancy Guthrie, that's the core reason why we kind of started this channel. It was to talk about some of the most serious of the serious and letting people know we do not have to live like this. And I think that that's super, super important for everybody to know. We don't have to live like this. And I know that there's a lot of people out here in the true crime genre that care. And people are like, oh my God, Betty, it's just too much. Well, you know what? Sometimes you need somebody to be. Right? Sometimes you need somebody to be. Sometimes you need somebody that that takes those chances and takes those leaps and says what a lot of people are thinking but unwilling to say. Take it for what you will. Take it for what you will. We haven't had the pleasure of meeting Chris Nanos out in Pima County yet. So I do want to put that out there. Are we going to go? I feel like, we're going to make our way out to Arizona at some point, right? We do have family members, coffee club family members that are near there. So it's like we know people. So for us to, and they've been, not just the new people out there in Pima County that we've learned up, like 857. We've got a coffee club member that has been affiliated with our channel for years that's in that area. So I know for a fact I would be safe and would have a friend to call if need be. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that I absolutely trust that I've known for quite some time. So at the end of the day, we probably will eventually go out there. I'm hoping by the time we do have the money to go out there that Miss Nancy Guthrie's case is solved and we're just doing like a mini doc on the information. That's where I'd like to be. Hey, 503, it's nice to see you. I need to have you up on the channel. I don't know how I'm going to do it though, because now that I've kind of dissed and gotten rid of StreamYard, I don't have the ability to have. So I'm thinking I've got to try to do a test run on like Google Meets. I know that we can have up to 3 people for an hour. They have a limit. So I'm thinking something like that. I don't know if Skype would work on this. I mean, I don't know what other programs we have. I've got to take some time, and I've really got to look into it, because I know we've had some requests from audience to have panels and have some more deeper discussions on this channel about, different avenues and discussions. And I know I told you I wanted to bring you up on the channel, and we never got an opportunity to do that. So there's a few other content creators, some smaller content creators that I'd like to bring up here. One, because I've listened to you guys. I know I think that you guys need to have a little bit of a bigger platform just to speak on. And two, I think that the conversation would be more encompassing of everybody's opinion, because I know everybody in this chat, they don't always agree with me. Some people are like, Betty, you're not seeing this, or you're not seeing that, but I can't hear them, right? Because I'm in front of this camera with speakers in my ears, and the speakers only let me hear my voice. Okay, so I know I can feel the eyes roll sometime in the chat, and I already know it before because I know my audience, right? I mean, I at least for you guys, I know you guys, so I know that there are some things that you guys just like doink right upside your head, like, Betty, what are you thinking, right? We're not going to discuss it. It didn't happen. It didn't happen, damn it. My husband works his ass off to make $52,000 a year, and still we struggle. No savings, no. I'm telling you, you're speaking to 95% of our country. Trust me, we are all in the same boat and fighting amongst each other. It ain't working. And while we're looking over at each other, they're still robbing us back there. Okay, I'm just saying. Do what you want to do. If hate's your way, fine. You know, nobody can control you. You have full control of yourself. We have control over ourselves, and I'm just saying, I'd prefer, you know, just speaking and letting people know that things could be different. If you think things should be different, then, you know, maybe just tune in, you know, maybe not agree with everything, but maybe just open the ears. That's, you know, sometimes I have to open my ears too, okay? I am a content creator that does live shows daily, okay? We have 2 ears and a mouth for a reason, okay? And we should use those proportionately, but I don't, okay? Again, we're not going to talk about it. So sometimes, you know, maybe I need to hear some things too, you know? So I do try to be open. And I've tried to be even more open than not, you know, after I had some, you know, conversations with some friends of mine, you know, some Democrats, because people are like, oh my God, nobody's friends in it. I've got friends, okay? I got friends of all walks of life, okay? All different political backgrounds. Believe it or not, I do tune in, and sometimes I get pissed off at them, and sometimes they get pissed off at me, and it's just part of the thing. But anyways, let's get back. But yeah, I absolutely believe there's much more we can all be doing. Okay, let's not kill the show, Betty. Let's not kill the show. Not a political activist show. Maybe one day. We do have a few channels I haven't rolled out yet. I've got to try to figure everything out, but we will be rolling some channels out so we can have talks about these very things, Shannon. So maybe that'll be a channel you'll want to join, but I need to start getting back into doing this. It's just hard because I'm ready to go, like I'm ready to get out in the field, and it's like, you know, everything's keeping me here at the studio, so I just need to start making a schedule and start really diving in, because I got a few things that I'd like to dive in on, and one of those things is flock cameras. Have you guys heard about flock cameras? Raise your hand. I'm sorry. We're going to get back to Nancy Guthrie. I just want to know, has anybody heard about these flock cameras? What do you think? Because I just happened to find out I have a flock camera a few doors down from my house on a dead-end road. Now, granted, we do have some, you know, I was having some problems here not too long ago. But, you know, I'm really pissed off because, you know, I mean, I'm a political activist here, and it makes me wonder, is somebody monitoring my movements, you know? I mean, I haven't really moved around very much, and I haven't had anybody, you know, at my house in forever because of some other things going on, you know, that were going on that I sued over. You guys all know about that. Yes. Yay, I'm in Iceland. Okay. So you guys know, what do you guys think about them? Because I'm, you know, I never knew we had flock cameras here. You'd think I would know. I remember approving, like, fighting for Rick to have a flock camera. I want to say on State Road 70 or something, and it was a thoroughfare. And you know, I'm like, yeah, you know, if he needs it, he needs it. You know, something's going on here because, you know, he doesn't usually ask for things he doesn't need. But to have one, you know, I didn't never even seen one until I was on TikTok and somebody was showing what a flock camera looked like. And I've been driving around past this pole for like, I don't know, like a year. And I'm like, oh, because it has a little, like this solar panel on it. So I just naturally thought it was somebody's solar powered light, from the neighbor. Like, I'm ignorant over here. And so now, as somebody reached out to me and they said, we would really like you to, speak at our protest about the flock cameras. And I'm like, well, I have been hearing a lot of stuff in the news about these flock cameras and people using the database inappropriately. I've heard of several people being arrested and fired from their positions, some that had been there for, over 10 years. So very shocking information that I'm researching. And so and then when I started looking at them, I'm like, that looks like today is the first day this light bulb went off in my head. And I go down there and I'm like, and so I put it on Facebook. I'm like, is this a flock camera? Like 7 doors down from my house on a dead-end road where we have a Bradenton police officer? Wouldn't that very expensive equipment be suited someplace else than a dead-end road? I mean, we occasionally have riffraff, but it ain't down on this side of the road. It's up at the very front where all those damn duplexes are. Now, I saw that, and I'm like, I shot off a warning on Facebook, like, Rick, please don't, I love my sheriff. Please don't make me, because I'm ready to reach out to an attorney. I truly am. I'm ready to reach out to an attorney and see what my recourse is on this, because I literally had no clue that there was a flock camera on my street, and I just want some explanation. Why on my street, and I want them to literally look at the records. Like, not blow me off, but look at the frickin' records and tell me if anybody's accessed that camera. And if so, for what purpose? And I want to align those purposes for any time that I have left this home. Because I'm going to tell you, if I find out that my government is spying on me when I'm coming after their jugulars to get them off the frickin' board, we're going to have problems. And I know that the sheriff has, jurisdiction over these flock cameras, but we also know that he's not the specific one running these cameras. Somebody else is. Are they bought and paid for? I don't, listen, we deal with corruption every day in this job and in this genre of, we're talking about this case, which has enough corruption in it to last a lifetime in the Nancy Guthrie case. So I don't know how you guys feel, but the flock cameras, now that I realize what they are and what they are, how they work, I have to be honest with you, it does concern me as a private citizen. As a private citizen that wants her privacy in certain matters, especially around my home. And I think I've made that very, very clear to Manatee County, especially when I started going after some people that would not leave me alone at my home, right? So I don't know how you feel about this. We have them all over our community, started raising hell until they took them down. They are using them to spy on people. See, that's what I'm scared of. And I know that Rick, listen, I don't think my sheriff is like, oh, you know what? Let me see what Andrew's doing today. Okay. I don't think that I'm that special. But I also know that when it's political seasons, I step on toes and I clap a lot. And you guys know when I'm clapping, it's not good. So it's, I have a little concern because it makes me feel like somebody could spy on me to try to get me caught up into something, right? To, when I do leave my home, say something that may not be true, right? In order to get me pulled over or have somebody, I don't like it. I don't like it. And what if they're trying to find out who I'm speaking to or who I'm associating with or who I'm meeting where? You see what I'm saying? I'm a political activist, and that confidentiality is required for my job. Required. It's not a suggestion. It's not a maybe. It is required for my job. And when I'm concerned to have anybody come meet me at my house where I conduct my business, that is concerning for me. That is very, very concerning for me, because the type of work that I do here in Manatee County can get people fired from their jobs. And that is the truth. And I'm not down like that. Thank God I'm a paranoid woman and I don't let people meet me here. My mama comes here every now and again. But I don't let people meet me here. And I'm glad I haven't. And I never even knew that there was a camera down the road. Scary shit, if you ask me. Scary shit. Excuse my language. On a Thursday. Sorry, not sorry. Do not forget, we do have, if you guys want to help sponsor my cussing, I'd like the criminals picked up before they kill me. I get it, happy Cappy. But you know what? I mean, does it really need to be? Because these cameras aren't really good to prevent anything. They're only good after the fact. So you're already going to be dead. Just saying. But wouldn't they be more suited on like maybe some thoroughfares? I mean, the justification to have it on a private community road that has a dead end, and you're talking about a very expensive piece of equipment here, okay? Anything to do with the government's freaking expensive. Did I tell you we just spent $1 million on a blessed kitchen to feed 80 people? Okay? So, I mean, I get what you're saying there, but they're not preventing crime. They're not preventing none of that. It doesn't prevent anything. As a matter of fact, I drove past it for the past year and didn't even realize what it was, which scares the crap out of me even more. I don't know. We'll get on to that another day. If you guys have any comments on that, I would like to hear your comments. I'm speaking on the matter tomorrow. I've already got my research. I already know what I'm angry with. And I just think it should be on a thoroughfare, something like the interstate or something like a main road like State Road 64, State Road 70. Being in private communities, I mean, that to me is going entirely too far. It goes entirely too far. You guys know like privacy is a big thing for me, and I know that I've given up some of my privacy against my own against my own statements, right? I wouldn't say against my will. I mean, I think we all give up a portion of our privacy. Every time you use Google, they're data mining you. Every time you use them to search on something, they're data mining you. They know more than your government does. I can't remember the quote, but something about giving up freedom for safety. Big Brother is bigger than we thought. Right. And so, I mean, we know we have cameras like on our lights, and we know we have cameras, traffic cameras down our interstates and stuff like that. Wouldn't Flock be better suited for those areas? I mean, in more, I would think more areas where people would expect not to have the privacy, right? Interstates, major thoroughfares. I mean, I just have a problem with it being them being able to surveil private communities. That to me, I have a problem with. Okay. I'm perfect. Listen, I'm not totally anti-flock camera. I do believe that I don't like them. I really don't like them, but I don't know if I have enough support to fight them. I guess we're going to find out tomorrow whether we have the support or not. I can tell you right now, somebody was teasing me on Facebook like, oh, just another Facebook warrior talking shit. I'm like, dude, you have no idea. Watch me work. I can't wait until like we're 6 months down the road and I can come back and say, well, your comment didn't age that well, did it? People with their mouths. You guys, please stop being like that. I mean, come on. Let's quit popping off at the mouth and try to give some grace. I'm just saying. All right, we're done. I'm Bullhorn Betty. Most of you guys are here not to talk about flock cameras, but to talk about Miss Nancy Guthrie and what in the world is going on with her case, right? Will we ever know the truth? Will we ever know the truth? That is a loaded question, is it not? So, she's still missing. It's been 6 months. We have very little information, and we have a whole bunch of chaos, right? Chaos. You know what? When you really think about this, when you really think about all of this, this case, it, like, what specific thing made us all start leaning toward multiple people? Does anybody have like a real good answer to that? Like, I feel flocks used properly can be a good thing, like with Nancy's. I agree. That's why I'm not anti-flock. You know, I'm not anti-flock, John, because you make a very valid point. It would have been excellent in the Nancy Guthrie case, and we have to look at that because, you know, we don't want flock replacing law enforcement, I think is number one. And number two, we want them to support, we want it to be a happy balance, okay? I don't feel it's a happy balance when I've got a flock camera on a dead-end road 7 doors down from me, a major. We're not talking about, I don't care what these little asshats say on these YouTube platforms, but when it comes to this county, I am a major political activist, okay? I am one of the top political activists in this community. One of them. There's many, thank God. Thank God, right? Unlike many other communities out there. And you've got a flock camera 7 doors down from my home, my government, that I literally am the boil on the ass of end of them. Like, they roll their eyes when I come into the chamber because they know I'm usually angry when I show up. When things are going great, I usually call in. When they start seeing me show up with my resting bitch face, they pretty much know, you know, whatever. But I don't know. I think the flocks are could be useful, but it's not really our. I think we need to look at this a little bit different because it's not really about the sheriffs that are running these. I mean, it is, because we've seen a lot of abuse already, and many of us didn't even know these flock cameras were even in the state of Florida. Okay, and we're hearing from people in the chat that they're around the United States. This is a network of flock cameras that are following our every move. I'm not okay with that. You know, again, thoroughfares, we already have cameras going down the interstate. Like, every time I go on to the interstate in Fort Myers, we have a tag reader right there, a license plate reader. So, I mean, I'm not okay with that. Every time I go by it, I flip it off. Okay, I won't lie. Is it professional of me to flip off the camera to whoever's doing it? I'm sure the people that are reviewing that photo are lovely people and don't deserve to be flipped off. But I flip the camera off every single time I drive by it. Okay, so, but you know, I'm not down in Fort Myers campaigning. Sorry guys, let me turn this off. I'm not down in Fort Myers campaigning. You know, to have it removed either. So there is that. Don't complain about something if you're not willing to put action behind it. But the flock cameras down the road from my house, that does concern me, and I'm definitely going to demand it be removed first and foremost. And if I've got to file a lawsuit to get this flock camera off this road, then by God, that's what I'm doing. And if I have to literally throw money at this problem, if I've got to go and hire an attorney to have this flock camera removed, you bet your ass I'm coming after Discovery, and it better be squeaky freaking clean. Squeaky clean. Squeaky clean. And I'm not even playing. So I'm upset. So anyways, if you guys want to talk about the flock cameras, send me some of your questions, because it seems like a lot of you guys have the same concerns that I do, if we're already taking a half an hour of this show to talk about these flock cameras. So legal is the way. Yeah, absolutely. So anyways, if you guys want to talk about these flock cameras, send me some emails and we'll do some research, because it seems like I thought it was just here in Florida, but it sounds like a few people are concerned in our chat about that. And I think it's this needs to be a public service awareness type of information. So, I don't know. Anyways, let's get back to this. I know we've tried to pull ourselves back, but let's seriously get back. So, Miss Nancy Guthrie is an 84-year-old grandmother that was ripped out of her bed in the middle of the night by a masked gunman. And since then, this case has kind of turned into a circus. I really don't believe in the ransom notes, and I believe that we need to focus on January 11th the most. I think January 11th is going to answer all the questions of February 1st. Now, getting back to some of the beliefs that I have, getting back to the individual, okay, not individuals, because I was starting to read some more articles on Google, and one of them said, where is it? Nancy Guthrie's case unclaimed 1.2. It's a Fox News article, and it says the title of it. It came out 5 hours ago, and the title of it says Nancy Guthrie case unclaimed 1.2 million reward suggests very small circle of suspects. Retired FBI agent says. Okay. First of all, I'm not law enforcement, okay? So I'm not going to play that I am. I have a legal background, I have an investigative background, I've got an accounting background, and I've got a medical background. So I can kind of work myself, through all of these things. Now, am I a doctor? No, I've got backgrounds. It means I went for a little more education than the average person on all these topics. I am having a problem with the FBI making the assessment of suspects with an S. And I think it's inappropriate. I mean, yeah, having it both ways, suspect and suspects, because we don't know what we have here. But as I expressed to you guys several times, we have eyewitnesses in that community that identified one person. We have two different events around Miss Guthrie's house that identified one person. And to constantly hear FBI agents, and it almost makes, maybe I should withhold that. That's probably a little rude and a little below the belt. It makes me question, why do certain legal experts on these platforms default to multiple assailants when the evidence after 6 months, we're not talking about, the first few days. We're talking about 6 months later. 6 months later. Oh, thank you, Marissa. Medical thinks he's a doctor. Hey Google, what do doctors prescribe liars? I think even Google said thank you for using the initials. I appreciate that. So why? Why do we keep looking at this case as multiple assailants? I mean, I understand having a theory, possibly, but what facts has driven us to that conclusion? You know what I'm saying? What facts have driven us to that conclusion? I think that we really need to answer that question, because there's a lot of people adopting that. Aw, thank you, Andrea. I appreciate you. January 11th, I remember Aldine, neighbor, telling Brian Inton she saw a guy. Yes, exactly. Yes, is that her name? Aldine? Oh, I never remembered her name. Thank you for that. But yeah, with the cap down. And then Pretty Little Clues is in here as well, and she's the one that sent me the photo, because I mean, we analyzed that photo a few times, and I'll be honest, originally I said I'm just going to own it, and I'm just going to say they're both from the same night, even though I did kind of have questions, but I kept thinking to myself, who's going to come back 2 nights in a row? one in the 11th and one, at this time we were hearing the 11th, but it wasn't confirmed. And of course, Chris Nanos was playing cat and mouse with the audience. Mixed DNA is why we look at multiple suspects. But I think that even that, okay, that's fair. Fair, Lisa B, always fair. But that doesn't necessarily mean there's multiple suspects, because we had Miss Guthrie, we had her cleaner, we had her pool guy, we had, the electrician there just in September. So the mixture may be a mixture, like if it's on her bed, it might be a mixture with her DNA, the housekeeper's DNA, and the assailant's DNA. Or if the housekeeper had a hand and they were making the bed together, maybe the two housekeepers got their DNA. So I don't think specifically, but fair enough. I didn't even think about that but that could be misinterpreted or interpreted both ways. So I agree with you that could imply multiple people. Okay, fair enough. But other than that, and that's still speculative, right? So we're speculating that the multiple DNAs is multiple subjects instead of a mixture of some people that are known or even unknown, like the electrician that was there in September. How much help did he get? Did they move? Like, for example, whenever you're doing electrical, sometimes your panel box might be in, say, the garage or something like that. And maybe you had a basket of clothes there and they needed to set up their ladder. And so they take that basket and just move it out of their way. I'm not giving what it could be. I'm just kind of explaining how we could have a mixture of DNA without it being multiple suspects. But in all fairness, you're right. It could be interpreted a multitude of ways. Definitely could be interpreted a multitude of ways. So I do appreciate that. Fair enough. I agree with that. But other than that, that's what made me think of trying to clean up. Oops, it just popped up on me. What does it say? Trying to clean up that photo. So much attention on the video, not enough on the stills. Yeah, specifically that particular photo, because in my opinion, I think whatever we're dealing with here all started with January. I don't think January, because of the toolbox in his hand or tool bag or whatever we observe in his hand. That tells me he was not just in for a sneak and peek, okay? If he had something in his hands, tools in his hands, he was breaching that house that night. I know that. I know that nobody is going to be bringing a bag of tools or a bag of something to that house if they're not trying to breach that house for a sneak and peek. They don't need to do a sneak and peek, right? If they're coming back, any lock, they're going to have to, what if he jimmies a lock on the 11th, and by the 12th she goes out and realizes the lock is jimmied, and she's like, oh, maybe some debris got in there, right? So she calls the locksmith out. They replace the lock. What good was it for him to go out there and prepare this house 20 days before he was going to kidnap her? I don't believe that. So no matter how you try to explain the event that happened on the 11th and the event that happened on the 1st, you can't make those work. Because no matter how you try to apply him being at that residence, it doesn't work. Now, it would work if the points and times weren't so far away. For example, we have heard of cases where people were at the house the day before, right? Maybe they were there to act like they were going to sell windows or something. To get in the house, they're measuring windows. They leave a window or door unlocked, or do something with the lock to make it bad, and then they come back later that night or the next day. Now, that would make more sense to me. But that wasn't what happened. He was there on the 11th, and he didn't go back for 20 more days. How can we apply that? Well, one way we can apply that is being spooked. He didn't know somebody was in the house. He broke into the house. He found her. He left the house, probably scared shitless, thinking he was going to go to jail, realized nothing happened, and then thought, I remember that lady. Maybe I need to go back. Nothing ever happened. This time he comes back with a gun, because now he knows he's going to encounter a person. He didn't have the gun the first time, so that tells me, in my mind, that he didn't expect to encounter a person. But he definitely expected to encounter a person the second time. And again, if he was there to do, a sneak and peek to find out how he's going to get in the house and all of this stuff, he would be doing that like the day before he's going in. He would not be preparing that 2 to 3 weeks beforehand, which was almost 3 weeks. It was 20 days. You does that make sense? Am I wrong? I mean, that's how my brain is kind of going with all of this, is that there was something more there. He was going there for something more on the 11th. So I think that the 11th photo in any subsequent video to that photo, I think is going to be crucial to this case. Crucial. And I absolutely believe that is going to explain why we may have had this February 1st situation. I got to slow down. I need a copy of me. Okay. I never thought that discuss, I think, dope and predatory behavior. What do you think about the his behavior, his demeanor out in front of her house, being so nonchalant? The whole video of him, kind of walking around. How do you guys feel about that? I mean, to me, it seemed unusual. To me, that I remember even at that time, if you guys go back with me, that was one of the reasons why I thought there was 2 people. It wasn't because of the DNA. I didn't interpret the DNA like that. I guess it could have been, and I'm kind of speechless that I didn't take it into consideration that that could have been. But one of the is because of his nonchalantness. And I felt like somebody was already inside the house. But it was more of a feeling than anything factual, right? And there was nothing so far, and that's where I'm trying to get to this. I'm not trying to have an aha moment with my audience. I'm trying to get to, is there anything specific that any of us remember that drove us to believing that there was a second assailant here? I don't know if there's any I mean, I understand the speculative aspect of it, but I don't know if there was anything that's factual I missed or forgot about. I mean, I have found out that I forgot about. So we have an issue with Sumner County, Tennessee, Hawkins County, Pima County, Arizona. Can you please tell us civilians that what we can do to make changes? Well, first, it's very, very easy. I mean, well, I shouldn't say it's very, very easy. I think it's very, very easy with action, but it has to be grassroots action. Like, we have a large platform here, but it's not specific to those communities. So people in those communities need to, one, bring awareness. A lot of people don't realize what's going on. You think they do, but they don't. And that is what the government relies on, is the ignorance of the community. And so for Manatee County, I think one of the best things we did in 2019 is we started these groups. We started all of these small groups. Some of them have, stopped or kind of joined in with other groups, making those bigger groups and stuff over the years, over the last 5, 6 or so years. But it all started with local advocacy and informing the community. Because, trust me, nobody's paying attention to politics in your community. But when it starts negatively affecting them, like traffic, floods, water pressure, rolling blackouts, when things start really affecting your community, it's already too late. So you try to bring the urgency before it gets late. But I've always believed in starting small groups and just educating people. And I think through education, people start making better informed decisions with voting. They start asking better questions when it comes to the ballot box. And then I think, obviously that goes to changing of leadership and stuff. But first, the very first step into making any type of positive impact is exposure and getting more people on board with the advocacy. Right now, we have a huge advocacy against the builders. They're turning our county into a parking lot. Everything, like all of our farmland, is being eaten up. They're building houses. We've got 65,000 houses still left to be built. And so there's a huge need, and this is affecting everybody. That's the event I was at just last night. That was all put together by citizens. That was not anything to do with any public group, any political group. That was strictly the citizens. That was the citizens of every walk of life, religion, a political background. Everybody was invited, and they did show up. They did show up. And I think that was one of the largest bipartisan groups I've ever had the pleasure of speaking in front of, because most of the time over the years it's been Republican based, because there's been so much fighting amongst that but now it's coming down to where this stuff is truly affecting everybody. Everybody's paying attention, and everybody wants the bleeding to stop. We're becoming so unaffordable, and it's affecting me to the point where I've given up on this county, to the point I'm going to Tallahassee to make sure that what we're going through here never happens again. That's how pissed off I am. I'm literally uprooting my life to go deal with the state of Florida, and to be an advocate for everybody in the state of Florida that doesn't get their voice heard by any political, because there's nothing they're going to be able to do to me. I don't drink, I don't use. I work, and I work. That's it. There's not a darn thing and I go and I fight, and I go to the mattress for some of these things, but this right here, it's the only thing you guys can do is make small groups and start working on that. And that's what they probably need to do out in Pima County. If you guys are from Pima County and you're dealing with all this stuff, the recall failed. The recall failed for Miss Nancy Guthrie. And, Chris Nanos is still a criminal sheriff overseeing law-abiding law enforcement officers that are having to swallow every day just to be able to feed their family, taking orders from somebody that should be in jail. I mean, he might, be honest with you, Chris Nanos, if he would have went to jail in 1983 when he was accused of doing all those things, well, he probably, back in those days, the law, I mean, he wouldn't have done a whole lot in jail. They didn't lock people up like they do now. And it's become profitable for him. If you guys notice, the sentences are getting longer and longer for petty crimes. The only people that should be locked up for multi-years are violent people. People that do non-violent petty crimes, whether they have 3 times, that shouldn't make it a felony. That doesn't justify the crime because some legislator said, oh, well, if you have 3 strikes, you're going to be a felon. So we can take all your rights away from you for stealing 3 Snickers bars. And never minding that the person is homeless, has no money, has no food, and needs to eat. How do you think he's going to get his food if he doesn't have food? He's got to survive. So now you're making him a felon for stealing food to survive. I think that there's just a whole lot of things I'd like to change, but this is not the platform or the program to do it. So, and I think that that's where my mind's probably going to be for the rest of the show, because apparently it affects a lot of people in our chat. I'm shocked. And it all started with the flock cameras. I guess that we are not really, we're kind of middle of the road. Like, we think the flock cameras will be good, but it needs to be managed properly. But it's not even it's the companies that are running them. What are they doing with the information? Right? This is not only the sheriff. You got to remember, these are people, we have no earthly idea who has access to these at the company level. So they have all of these restrictions for their police officers and sheriff's department. But what about the people that own the stuff? What are they doing with this information? Because the last time I looked, especially Flock, it sounded like the actual company that owns that program is an overseas person. So now we have foreign people that have access to all of our comings and goings? I'm not good with this. I'm really not. I think we do need to have a discussion. Maybe we'll do it in the morning. That will have to be what we do. We're going to have this discussion in the morning. Absolutely. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get back to Chris Nanos and him being in the hot seat. We only had an opportunity to really talk about a very limited amount of this yesterday. He was only able to get through a certain little beginning part of this. He hasn't even gotten into the dissing of Kash Patel. Kash Patel is our FBI director. And there's been a lot of headbutting going on between the FBI and Pima County Sheriff. Now, Pima County Sheriff has been under investigation. Chris Nanos has been specifically under federal investigations many times. I think 1 is too many. I think 2 is too many. And I'm pretty sure it's 3 or more times he has been personally under federal investigation. That to me is a bad cop. And to think that he's running, like, I feel like it's the gangster running the 7th largest community in our county in Arizona. And he acts like a gangster in many cases prior to all of this. But, one thing we did notice is whenever he's asking, how far, are we further along today than we are, then, he could have just said, yes, we are. But he goes into explaining and over-explaining the process, right? To make himself sound smarter, maybe not to answer the question directly. But he goes on this, where are we? I guess at least a 2-minute conversation of answering the question, talking about all the processes, right? The DNA and all this other stuff. So that's kind of where we left it off yesterday. Are those records transparent? Which one are we talking about? This kid did an excellent job with this. He did. We discussed true crime. Yes, he did. And not only that, but you should look at the history of him. If you guys know anything about Wyatt Sharp, he debuted. I think we all saw him. I don't remember what year it was. He was just a little kid. I mean, he was just the cutest little thing, dressing up in a suit and tie with his little microphone. And I'm telling you, he was as cute as a button. I probably shouldn't say that because he's a handsome man now, but he was just cute as a button. And just to see him all grown up and see Chris Nanos, but in all fairness, Chris Nanos hasn't spoken to one person that is social media. Okay, and so for Chris Nanos to take this interview with this young journalist here, it does show at least a little positive character of Chris Nanos. Okay, he obviously had some respect. I can tell by his body language, Chris Nanos' body language here. He's kind of waiting for the shoe to drop, so to speak, a little bit. But I so far I haven't watched this totally because I wanted a real live action and to see it together. But I did notice that, you can kind of see in some respects at the beginning, Chris Nanos, especially those first 2 questions, you can see him like almost preparing for like an aha moment. But he's a young kid and he seems like he's really, trying just to bring the truth. And again, go check him out. Sharp, and it's like an X and then change. So go, unless it's, I don't know what it is. Is it Sharp Exchange X? Is it X or E? No, it's the Sharp Exchange. So EX. So anyways, go there and check this kid out. Sub up for him. It looks like he's fairly new on this platform, but when you look at his history, if you are not living under a rock, you know exactly who this kid is. It took me a second. He looked familiar, but I didn't know why, and then I found out why.
Yeah, you mentioned.
Yep.
we share those sentiments. Somebody out there knows something. We know that. We want that person to call us. And so we continuously say, if you know something, call the FBI hotline, call the Sheriff's Department tips line, but call.
Yeah. You mentioned Savannah. Have you spoken to her recently? She released that video yesterday, and I think a lot of people are probably wondering what the status is of the relationship between your office and the family.
Well, our relationship is a good relationship. I mean, these are tough times. But no, I have not spoken with Savannah recently. She has my contact number, as you and the rest of the world seems to have. But she's very gracious.
So we just found out how this kid got a hold of him. So apparently he got a hold of his contact information, which is readily available. I gotta refresh this. Give me just a second.
Wondering what the status is of the relationship between your office and the family.
Okay, that's a good question. I think I want to go back just a little bit, but I noticed that when it kind of clicked over, I don't know if my lips, yeah, okay, good, we're back up. But I noticed when it clicked, when I put it up here first and then it clicked, I noticed that it kind of reset itself and did that black screen. Well, as soon as it did it got my lips off, and you guys know how it annoys me when that happens. So we're back, and let me play it.
Mentioned Savannah. Have you spoken to her recently? She released that video yesterday, and I think a lot of people are probably wondering what the status is of the relationship between your office and the family.
Well, our relationship is a good relationship. I mean, these are tough times. But no, I have not spoken with Savannah recently. She has my contact number, as you and the rest of the world seems to have.
You and the rest of the world seems to have. So he had himself a persistent young man, there. It sounds like, I can tell by Chris Nanos' sly comments. But I find it interesting that he has not had any type of recent communication with Savannah Guthrie. And with him being the lead agency, you would think that he or his team, mostly, when you have somebody like a Savannah Guthrie in your community, typically the sheriff handles all those communications with that person because they're more higher up on the food chain. And so it's kind of a respect situation. For example, if, God forbid, something happened to me, okay, I don't think any officer would show up to my mom's house. I truly believe if something happened to me and they needed to make, notification, that Sheriff Rick Wells would be the one that made that communication to my mother. Okay, nobody else in the department. I'm pretty confident that the sheriff would probably make that personal appearance at my mom's house, right? So I also believe that to be the case. Now, I'm nowhere near Savannah Guthrie's, so I'd have to think that any communication would be specifically handled by the sheriff alone. Okay, it concerns me to find out that he's had zero communication with Savannah lately, because one of the things he should be doing is keeping her apprised of at least certain things. Somebody from his office, right, should be keeping her apprised of certain things, like if there's going to be something coming out, if he did an interview and something sparked out of that interview that's going to be on the 5 o'clock news, you would probably expect some kind of communication from the sheriff to Miss Savannah Guthrie to inform her that there is going to be some things coming out, and just wanted, so you'd have some, it wouldn't be anything to do with the integrity of the case. You can't do that because of the type of classification this case has, and the type of classification this has, this really does limit the amount of communication that's going back and forth. But out of professional courtesy, you would be expecting, especially if he said something publicly out of his mouth that's going to be airing on the 5 o'clock news, you would expect him to inform one of the victims that the news is going to come out and it's going to be XYZ, or at least a notification from his office. That's what I would assume. Do you guys agree with that? I mean, would that be what you would expect from a law enforcement for somebody this high up in the food chain? I mean, I don't know. I feel like I have a problem with that just a little bit. But, you know, in all fairness, I mean, I have a problem with, but I always have a problem with the lack of communication with the family, even though we know that, you know, depending on what type of classification it is with the family, like, for example, if your classification is just missing, okay, and you have strictly a missing person, then a lot of communication is had with the family. A lot of open, you know, now granted, some may be reserved on the part of law enforcement because they're still investigating to find out, you know, is this truly a missing person, or is there foul play here, or a variety of other elements and metrics that they would be looking at for that, you know. But I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, let's get back to this. So I just have a problem that he hasn't spoke to Savannah. So it looks like a few people do as well. I think they are just speaking with the FBI. But the problem is with that is the FBI is not the lead investigator. You know, and I think that, and quite frankly, the FBI usually doesn't say crap. You get less out of the FBI than you will ever get out of, you know, Pima County Sheriff. I remember the beginning of this case, there was leaks. There was all types of leaks in this case. And we've never talked about that aspect of this case. But if you guys remember, there was all types of leaks coming out there. Now, granted, it was leaks that were being had with other retired or fired law enforcement that were leaking it to the press. But at the end of the day, they were leaking information to the press in an active and ongoing case. I mean, that was a problem. I hope they are looking at sex offenders. Happy Cappy. Me too. And you know, that comes back to, I keep getting off track. But that kind of gets back to what I was saying at the very beginning when we started diving into this, not my intro. My intro kind of went on a tangent on flock cameras, but I don't know. I feel like maybe the reason why they've had us all looking at these ransom notes is because we're looking at multiple people while they're going through looking at singular people, you know, just like a different type of strategy used to deflect or to distract the public, you know, because, I mean, at the end of the day, law enforcement has to get creative, as well as we've got to get creative when we're talking about these cases, because they're dealing with a whole different, you know, we had a very hungry and eager media back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and somewhere along the way around, you know, 2000, mid to late 2000s is when we started getting, you know, started pussyfooting around with our media. We stopped having cutthroat media anymore. And so I don't know. I feel like they might be looking at a singular person, but it seems like everybody's always talking about this being more people, but you never hear law enforcement. Like, everybody that's analyzing this case is talking about multiple people. But if you hear Savannah, if you just go back and listen to how their tone is, like even Chris Nanos, it seems like it's a specific person as opposed to persons, you know? And I don't know. Due to where he screwed up from the jump, didn't listen to what the family had said for us normal people. Yeah, I hope they're looking for, I do, I hope they are, but, you know, nobody's even talked about the possibility of her being a sexual assault victim. I mean, and that's been one of the, and I know that you know that, Happy, because you've been here long enough. You're regular on here, so I know that you are very well aware of that. You know, we've been talking about that aspect, the sexual assault component of this case, for some time. Is there a sexual crime here? Is that the motive? Was there a sexual crime? Because the way I'm trying to explain why this guy was in front of her house on the 11th, and every time I try to apply reasonable I mean, reasonable activities and an unreasonable crime. Oh, that sounds awful. That's a horrible word to use. But for the most part, I'm trying to find, what seems like what may make sense, right? And so I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe he's here to prepare. Maybe the whole tool pouch and toolbox is to break a lock. And I'm thinking, if that's the case, 20 days is entirely too long to go back. To go back 3 weeks later? What if that had been repaired? That's just too much of a risk and a waste of time. So when you play the tape through, when you think that the assailant must have been there to prepare the property, you start coming across reasonable issues against it, such as the length of time. I could understand that being the case if he was going back to it in a day or two, right? But anything short of that, it wouldn't make sense to start popping locks 3 weeks before you're going to enter the home, because at that point, somebody might notice that somebody's been jimmying around with the house. 3 weeks? That's a long time. That's a long time. Who's from this community in Arizona that's in the chat right now? There might not be. Maybe I need to say maybe somebody in Arizona, but I know it depends on the county. Does anybody know how often the garbage is picked up there? Is it picked up once a week or twice a week? So they moved on to just known deviants. I wonder if Nancy was even home on the 11th. Great question, Yvonne. Like I said, don't ever assume anything. Don't ever assume anything. I believe she was, because he came back with a gun. He didn't have a gun on the 11th. So why would he be there on the 11th? I would think if this is your sneak and peek to get everything set up, I would think that would be the time that you would have your firearm on you. What if there's a family secret who feels slighted? It might be. It might be. That's why I said, when people were upset that the family, I kept reminding people, I'm not saying the entire family's cleared, just the immediate family, her children. But it's very hard in a normal society for a child to off their parents. I mean, you got to be pretty messed up to do something like that. I think that's the because we don't know these people, we can make them anybody we want in our brains, and so these types of things make sense to us. But in the reality of things, I mean, think of yourself. If God forbid your mom disappeared, like, nobody in their right mind that knows you would ever think you were responsible for it. But in this day and age, you never know if your case is going viral or not. And there might be somebody out here in the ether that thinks you're guilty when you know damn well you love your mom. So I have to apply some standard here so I don't attack, victims, because we got to remember that, despite what we think, it's just what we think. We don't know. And if you go out here and you're reaching out to these people and calling them murderer and they'd had nothing to do with it and they just lost their mom, who's the monster in that story? Them or you? So, I mean, it's difficult. It's hard, right? I get it, because, I mean, they were the last one to see him. In any other case, we would look at him. But let's face it, there is a masked man outside of her door, and we can all agree it's not Tommaso. And yeah, we might want to speculate, oh, well, it must be somebody he hired. Okay, well, you can speculate that, but it wasn't Annie and Tommaso. So anything other than that, we know for a fact it wasn't physically them. Okay? So why was this assailant there? And let's put it like this. If it was somebody close to the family, why did this man need to go there twice? Why did this man need to go there twice? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit. If this was somebody in the family, he would only need to go there once and he would have a map of where everything is, including the cameras. He didn't have that. You know how we know he didn't have that? Because he didn't have any tape to cover up the lens. He didn't have any tools with him when he went back to tear it off the wall. He had to try to find frickin' weeds to tear it off the wall. And the question is why? Maybe because he was scared once he went in there and did whatever he was about to do, his mask might come off his head in the attack. And maybe that is what happened. Maybe he did attack her. Maybe she did rip his mask off his face. There was blood of hers inside that home by the front door and out the back. I can't imagine them, her fighting and knowing that she's no match. It disturbs me too much of what this little lady must have been going through at that moment. And we've got a sheriff out here that, one, shouldn't be a sheriff, and two, keeps making excuses for his terrible decisions. And just like the other day where I had to tell George, this was your baby. You failed. And you're unwilling to take accountability for your failures. And sometimes I feel like I just want to say the same statement to Chris Nanos. And I just want to hear him finally take a breath and realize, okay, I need to do better. At that moment when I made those statements, I don't know if I moved George or not. But he decided to step back on that particular thing he was pushing forward because he realized, we need, instead of keep pushing, good money after bad money on a project that's failing, then we need to kind of readdress the issue here. And sometimes I feel like that's what I'd like to say to Chris Nanos, But we don't get that opportunity. And even if we did, he would dismiss it. Because again, he's one person that refuses to take accountability and he keeps being dishonest about it. And I keep saying he's being dishonest about it because in my mind, 100%, I know how I have a good understanding about how law enforcement works. I am not a law enforcement agent, nor have I ever been. But I do know the cooperation that the FBI and local law enforcement usually give one another. I mean, outside of this whole hijacking of our whatever, I'm not getting into that. But for the most part, that's the way it is. The feds work with local, work with state. It's not usually this, boom, 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 boom. And Chris Nanos is telling us that they were on the scene from day one. These were his words, not ours. His words. So if they were on the scene at day one, and he's trying to convince us that he's been playing nice with them and that Kash Patel is just lying, why did they have to shut the crime scene down a second time to let the FBI into the house? Why? It does not make sense. And I'm going to continue to say that because I just want accountability and I want truth. And the only way that Chris Nanos is going to start getting some trust back from the public is when he starts telling the truth. And so far, he's still not telling the truth, in my opinion.
But she's very gracious, and she doesn't need to contact the sheriff. She needs a team that she's very well aware of that works with her, and she's in contact with them at any moment of day, any time of day that she needs to.
I think he's referring to the victim's right or like the victim's right liaison or counselor or something like that, that they do have as part of their, I think, victim's Bill of Rights. We'll have to look at that Bill of Rights out in Arizona. I don't think I can't remember if I looked at it or not. I mean, I'll be able to tell once I start reading it again if it sounds familiar or not, but I think that might help clarify some things. And is there anybody to force him to take account? No. The only body that could have forced him, well, no. Me, Blondie, let me clarify that. Yes, there are bodies, okay? First of all, he was referred to the state attorney multiple times for perjury and other things. The state attorney, the corrupt state attorney, is refusing to hold him accountable, just like everybody else. As long as you're in government or political stuff, you can just get away with everything. Nobody holds you accountable unless you, and like if this was a Republican district attorney and a Democrat sheriff or vice versa, you bet your ass they would be hauled in for perjury. But because we have a Democrat and a Democrat, they won't do it. And you guys, I know I'm just telling you how it works, okay? You guys don't kill the messenger, okay? Don't hate the player, hate the game, okay? That's all I'm gonna say. Whatever.
You also mentioned,
as is the rest of the family.
of course, you also mentioned the task force in one of your previous answers. Can you tell us kind of the status of that task force? How many members from the FBI? How many members from your office? And kind of how that has contributed to the investigation?
Well, so there's a core task force here. The FBI has task force all across the country.
Right.
We've been a member of their task force, a violent crime task force, for decades. This task force for the Guthrie case consists of a handful of detectives from my agency and a sergeant lieutenant.
Told ya. I did a report. This was my little birdie. I didn't know whether was truthful at that time. Didn't know, whether my little birdie was accurate or not. But I brought a story that even Ashley Banfield tried to dispute, and it was the story about Chris Nanos downsizing the task force. Do you guys remember me bringing that up? And we were told that there was at least a dozen, about 12 to 15, according to Ashley Banfield's reporting. He's saying a handful. Okay? That's a lot less than 12 to 15 people. A handful of detectives is not 12 to 15. That's a baker's dozen detectives. Okay? Not a handful. So if you guys remember that reporting, I like to point these things out to you because, again, I did put the caveat because at that point I had just starting the conversation with this person, so I had no idea whether their information was good or not. So I did put some caveats on there saying, listen, this came from a birdie. I don't know how accurate my birdie is, but I guess we can find out. And then, of course, Ashley Banfield ran a story and said 10 to 12 that they didn't downsize. And I'm like, well, we were told that they had 20 or 25 people in this task force. Now we're finding out it's 12 to 15, and now we're finding out it is a handful. It is a handful. So I just wanted to point out that we did have a report that came out, and it was a while ago that I learned that this task force is dwindling down, and people, mainstream media, even including Ashley Banfield, which is kind of quasi mainstream media, disputed those factors that were kind of, like I said, potentially true. And now we're finding out that it was an accurate reporting right here. There it is. He has a handful of detectives there now. So that's what I heard. That's what I heard, and that's what I had reported. So now we know. I mean, I just this is the first time I heard this, and I'm like, wait a minute. We did a story on this, and you can go back because I did an entire story just on that, the reduction of detectives.
And the chain of command, as well as several agents here locally. That task force, that core group, works together, and as information comes in, it may be something that requires attention from, say, Washington. Maybe it's, hey, you this piece of digital evidence, we know that you guys have a team that's good at that. Can you send it out? And they'll send it there. Just as there may be some local pieces of information that the FBI here says, hey, we need to go and find this person and interview them. So it does this in terms of its growth in that. But the core membership has been there from day one, and they continue to meet daily.
The core, did he say the core membership?
says, hey, we need to go and find this person and interview them. So it does this in terms of its growth in that. But the core
Right.
membership has been there from day one.
The core members? Did you say the core members? The core members? What does the core members mean? Is anybody else confused by that statement? Am I hearing that right? Guys, turn up. I'm going to shut up. Turn up your microphones and tell me what he's saying here. I'm going to shut up. I went back 15 seconds, so now I'm going to go back 10.
Person and interview them. So it does this in terms of its growth in that. But the core
Right.
membership has been there from day one, and they continue to meet daily.
The core members have been there since day one, and they continue to meet daily. What does he mean by core members? I mean, and membership. Yeah, something like that. It sounds like he was getting ready to say membership, but stopped at members. This is pretty interesting for me. I heard, Seth, you've got a little boy, a 3-year-old boy or a 2-year-old boy out there in Clarksville that's been missing since June. And we were just finding out about it. I almost forgot about it until you just popped in. And Sonia sent it to me, and as a matter of fact, I just realized Sonia sent it to me, and I forgot about it. So we have a child, little boy, out there in Clarksville that is missing. Core membership is what I heard. Okay. Core membership is what Sleuth Fairy said. What does that mean? Core membership. Yeah, I don't like that word. I mean, sometimes when you're speaking live, you misspeak. I mean, you guys watch me do it all the time. I mean, I just called, even though I every time I'm here and I'm talking about Lynette Hooker, I know she's a 55-year-old Michigan mom, but we started covering the Ohio 16, the 16 children that their local government referred to as, mostly feral children. I can't even imagine what that must have been like. Just kept finding more and more children coming out of that had to have been creepy. But anyways, so I ended up calling her an Ohio mom because and in my brain I said Michigan. Like, I'm just going on. I mean, I say it all over and over, and it was open mind that reminded me, like, did you say Ohio? Isn't she Michigan? Yeah, she's Michigan. Did I say Ohio? So it just, when you're live, you do misspeak. So there is a possibility for that. But the core membership, I mean, how do you misspeak like that? It seems a little weird. He had no idea this 17-year-old was going to fuck his shit up. Actually, I think he does, because at the very beginning of this, he was very skeptical. You could tell by the questions that Wyatt is asking. The very first one, you could almost see Chris Nanos bracing himself for the question, and it was a softball question. So I know that he for whatever reason he's meeting with this young buck, but he's still almost intimidated by him in part. I could see his body language at the very beginning, and he looked like he was a little timid. When he, it looked like he almost embraced himself for impact when Wyatt was first asking the very first question. Is what I remember witnessing. Why didn't he use? Hold on, what does it say? Why didn't he use the word investigators? Great question. I misspeak, and I misspeak about states and dates, because we cover so many different cases, and sometimes when I'm speaking, it comes out cross, and my audience will pick up or correct me in chat, and sometimes I see it and sometimes I don't. But why he used core membership? Is it a membership? We know he has a club, right? That's what it's called, the Good Old Boys Club, right? That's why we have a manager of the homicide team that's not even seasoned in homicides. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But anyways, let's keep going.
for kind of a direct comparison from the beginning of the investigation, has it grown or shrunk again from the beginning period?
Oh, I think day one, it was the task force, the FBI.
Day one, he's saying they had the task force. That task force was not created until, wasn't it after they stopped searching, after they physically had a presence? They said, we're going to set up a task force to run in the Phoenix FBI office. Wasn't that weeks later? Wasn't that weeks later? Okay. Am I confused? I might be confused. When was the FBI task force with Nancy Guthrie? When was the FBI task force with Nancy Guthrie created or established? We'll say created. Joint FBI. Nah, they're saying that immediately formed. They say the joint FBI and local law enforcement task force for Nancy Guthrie was formed immediately following her disappearance on February 1st after she was abducted. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. They weren't even on initial deployment. Federal, local, and Pima County officials established a coordinated response and command presence on day one. Through public debate later rose regarding the exact timeline of the full federal investigation. That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what he's saying versus, let's see what else we got here. Let's just go, oops, let me go back. We'll look at all of these. Hold on, let me put these in order. And then where are we? Got 3. I got 2. So where's the third one? Hold on, let me get the third one. My mouse is a little hinky. Okay. So let's read all of these. I'm not sure if I just got jammed up, if my lips are not syncing or not, but just wait for it. It does happen whenever we're pulling stuff up.
Captive for 9 months. She was.
Okay, so they're talking about the whole thing with Elizabeth Smart here. So this is on July 30th. Let's pause this. I don't think it was established day one. I think that's been the embattled Arizona sheriff leading the Nancy Guthrie investigation has lashed out at the FBI after its director, Kash Patel, accused police of blocking the agency from assisting in the early stages of the probe. Chris Nanos, the Pima County Sheriff, staunchly defended his office during the appearance on the Sharp Exchange Tuesday over how they handled the early stages of the investigation, accusing Patel of being misinformed. In May, Patel claimed the FBI was kept out of the investigation for 4 days. There's no way that they had a joint investigation, a joint stuff on day one. There's no way. There is no way. So, I disagree. I disagree. And I think that there is enough evidence. You know, I'm not going to take sides with Chris and Kash. I'm going to look at the evidence available to me at this moment. And the only evidence that I've got is that the feds are saying that they were kept out 4 days. So I look at what happened on the 4th day, and that's when they had to put up crime scene tape around the house again to allow the FBI to go in. That does not tell me that the FBI was there on day one. It tells me that they were kept out of this case, because even Chris Nanos says that he had them there on day one. So why didn't they go in and help process that home, that crime scene, or go in or be able to do a joint crime scene investigation? There was none of that. And you cannot tell me that the FBI would not be willing to do that. There's no way, especially with the type of case this is. There's no way. So the only evidence I have is that the crime scene had to be shut down a second time to allow the FBI in, and that was day 4. So in all fairness, that supports the details that Cash has been passing around versus the details that Chris Nanos has been passing around.
By the crime task force, which we're a member of, right there at the scene, the membership were there. Our team was there. There's a lot was said from, I guess.
Membership was there. He said it again. Membership was there, not leadership. Membership was there. What is this membership he is referring to? That's the second time he said it. What is he talking? Does anybody from Pima County? Is Justin in here? Hey. Now the party can really begin. Oh, good afternoon, Justin. It is nice to see you. What is this membership? Do we have anybody? Where's Arizona Raven? Is Arizona Raven in chat? Arizona, do you know what this is about? It is odd. So you guys didn't misunderstand them. He did say the core membership. The core membership. Seth usually comes in here and says hi to everybody, and you know he's got lots of stuff going on in his orbit. He just wanted to let you guys know he's thinking of you. What have you heard of this? Have you heard of this membership before? I'm interested in that. But two, by the time the FBI got there, any good evidence was already in my opinion. Yeah, absolutely, Blondie. I agree with that. And that's exactly what we said, is that I hope, we just found out at the beginning of this yesterday. Nope, didn't get it. Okay. I thought maybe it's a terminology because, we did have like civil warrant, right? In Sumner County, and civil warrant is basically what we refer to here in Florida as a subpoena, So people sometimes use different terminology. So I just thought that I would ask, and maybe it was just a different terminology that we weren't familiar with. But if you're from Arizona and you're not getting it, then it's probably not a common word to be used. So now I have a big question. What the hell is this membership he's talking about? Yes, Seth is a wonderful man, father, and cares. Yes. Good Old Boys Club or Deep State, their membership. I would agree with that. Yeah, that sounds like what we're dealing with here. I don't know. And so let's keep going. Wow, we're only 8 minutes, guys. We have been dragging this out. We were only 8 minutes into this, and we were already 5 minutes. We've only gone 3 minutes. We have talked 45 minutes about a 3-minute clip. I just want to put that into perspective. It's going to take us days to go through this entire interview. I just thought I would throw that out there. Like everything is outside the norm in this case. So frustrating. Yes, it is. But you know what I think I'm really kind of, I guess that's got me a little questioning some things. One is, you weren't here. You just kind of came in here. My first question was, what was the defining fact? Because I think it's speculative, not necessarily factual. But what was the defining thing, item, statement, that made us feel that this was a multiple assailant crime? That's the first question I have. Because, I was like, there's one assailant here, and then people approached and started, we started looking at maybe a multi-person crime. And so I think that multi-person kind of stuck with us because it feels right, for us to explain the ransom notes, for us to explain Savannah. But what if all of that is not accurate? This is not about ransom. This is not about Savannah. So are we sure it's not a single person? Because my biggest concern is, why was this guy at her house 3 weeks before? And I truly do believe, I think the only explanation that really does meet the facts that the public knows, factually, not speculatively, factually, I think without anyone seeing a second person, we have witnesses from the 11th that saw a lone man with his hat pulled down. We have the photo and the image of the 11th, only one. He's not wearing a backpack. He's not wearing a firearm. And it appears he has a tool pouch or toolbox with him. It seems to me that that is the botched burglary. I think he had burglary tools in that bag, and I believe he breached that home and was startled by the woman inside, and I think he left. And I think that after 2 weeks in the case, it was all clear, like there was no crime reported, nothing, that he realizes Nancy didn't even know he was there. I think he may have come back, but this time he was prepared to encounter a human being. He came back with a full backpack. He came back with a fire pistol, and he came back. But the one thing that questions me is, with all this preparation of this next time coming back, with the clothes, the gloves, the firearm, the full backpack, is why did he? What was the purpose of the first time of him being there, and what was the purpose of the second time of him being there, and why was he so much more prepared for the second visit but not prepared for the camera? That's the questions I have related to this, and I think if we get a little more clarification on that, it might help us focus this case a little bit. But I think the most important, and I'm going to keep saying this, I think the most important is the January 11th. I think we need to find out why he was there. I think that time has the most evidence, not the most evidence, the most public evidence, because we didn't know it was going to be so critical, and we have the neighbor on camera talking about one guy, not two, one. We've only seen one guy on the camera on the 11th, and we've only seen one guy on the camera on the 1st. Now, we can say, oh, this shadow might look like somebody, but that's still speculative. But what we truly do see is only one person. So I'm trying to find out if there's any fact, not suggestion, not speculation, but a fact that may have led us to this multiple suspect. And of course, Lisa B always piped in, and she said, well, so I would think that for her, it was the mixture of DNA. That's what led her to believe that there's this strong possibility of a second assailant. So I'm not sure. If there is, hold on, let me read what she said. If there was a second person at the house that night, why wouldn't they put the picture out of the second person? Wouldn't you want two faces out there in the public? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But they're talking about all these ransom notes that I hear on good accord. They've known for a really long time that those ransom notes were not going to produce any results. There was a lot of people, from my understanding, that knew that those ransom notes were duds. All of them. So it keeps making me wonder, if they knew they were duds, why did they put so much public focus on them? And so I started thinking strategy, law enforcement. I like to play these tapes through. And this is the only way I do it, is just, sitting here and logically going step by step of why these things potentially could mean what they mean. And I'm looking at these and wondering, well, maybe this is the distraction. Like, we are so hot and heavy on this case, and we as the public are so overwhelming for the investigative body that the only way they can give themselves some reprieve and some breathing room is to have this grand distraction that puts us on a different path than they're on. Now, is that a conspiracy theory? I reckon it could be. But it could theoretically make sense. So it made me wonder, is that why there's been so much public onus on these ransom notes, or is this truly a push from Savannah Guthrie and the people that she works with to inform law enforcement how she's feeling? Is this something that she's pushing because she believes it? And I just want to remind people that she lost her mother, okay? And when you lose your mother, when you lose a family member unexpected, whether it's a child, a loved one, a significant other, you truly have grief. And that grief does affect your body, mind, and soul, okay? And it's almost like shock. Your head is just confused. And it's confused because you're not sleeping, and when you do sleep, you're not getting a full sleep. You're sleep deprived, if not almost in a sleep deprivation, if you will. So your brain is not firing off on all cylinders. So when I hear victims really honing in on what they think happened, I have a tendency, and it's no disrespect, but I have a tendency to dismiss their theories. I listen to them. If they suit and they fit, then they suit and they fit. But most of the time I will dismiss them because their brain is in my, I don't know any other way to put it, but sick, right? It's not a healthy brain. Their brain is under so much trauma, so much stress, and so much grief that, and so much adrenaline and other things that we're not thinking about that's pumping through them, that's not allowing them to think clearly. I've only had a couple times in my life where I've experienced this, and one, I talk about it, haven't talked about it in a while, but when I was married, we had 3 dogs, and we had a handyman business, so we had a backyard, fenced-in backyard. They had a large dog house. They had shade trees, water, food, and even a pool. We even put a little kiddie pool out there so they could lay in it and cool off, because it gets hot in Florida. We want to make sure that they're safe and they're able to stay cool. We have to work, and it's not fair to keep dogs locked up in a house all day. So we put them outside and try to keep them as comfortable as they can be. And they're happier, in my opinion. I think that when they are able to move around freely, they're happier. Well, one of our dogs didn't like the dog house. She liked the coolness of the dirt. So they would get under the trailer, and we had like this rinky-dink trailer back there. And I've never seen underneath the trailer because, we knew it was rusty and this, that, and the other. Long story short, she must have stood up really fast, and must have been a barb of rust sticking out from the trailer, and it skinned her. It got right up under her skin, lifted her fur right up off the bone. She never pouted. She never even let us know that there was anything wrong with her or she was even hurt. We were clueless. She came in like she normally does, sat down to watch TV with us. She was laying in her spot. All the dogs were laying in their spot. And Vince thought she had something sticky in her hair because she had this little patch of hair sticking up. So he went over there to put it down, and I'm cooking dinner. And he's like, hey, babe. Yeah. He's like, Layla's injured. I'm like, what do you mean she's injured? He's like, she's injured. And I went over there, and I saw this gash in her like this big, and I could see her freaking bone, and my hands just started shaking like this. Like, I freaked out. I'm like, and I remember pacing back, like I grabbed my phone. I know I need to call the veterinarian, right? And I know I need to call the veterinarian, and I got the phone in my hand, and my hands are shaking, and my brain is clear, but in the back of my head, I know I need to call the veterinarian, but I don't know who I need to call. It was the weirdest experience I've ever had in my life. And that is the closest I think I have come to being shocked shocked that I can remember. Now, I was in shock when I was, I think, 12 or 14. We were in a bad car wreck, and I remember going into shock during the bad car wreck, where I was just kind of walking in circles with my hands shaking and my body trembling. But those were but I don't really remember. I didn't really memorialize that experience like I did with Layla when she got injured. So I do have kind of this understanding of what this shock is, and I can tell you that my head was so confused. So although this was a dog, it wasn't a family member, a friend, you know, a loved one dying or missing or anything like that. It does give me a little insight about how sick a brain can be under certain stressors. Because I would think that, you know, everything I deal with, when I had to deal with a stress like that, I would know exactly what to do. And here I am so shocked at what I saw that I can't even dial the veterinarian with my phone in my hand. It was just, it's crazy. So I like to explain that a little bit because that is my only experience with shock. And I can't imagine that has to be a low level shock compared to what Miss Savannah Guthrie and her family's going through. So again, if she's the one pushing the whole ransom aspect of this, or the family is, you know, it's getting to the point where we're going to have to start dismissing this because they're not, I don't know, we haven't gotten any evidence that these are legitimate. And I don't believe that they are. Everything that bodes with ransoms don't bode with this ransom. So this is going to be the one outlier of all the ransoms from around the world. I just don't believe the 1 in a billion chance is this.
Director Patel about how we delayed contacting them.
Okay, let's go back. He's got to go in on
at the scene. Membership were there. Our team was there. There's a lot was said from, I guess, Director Patel about how we delayed contacting them. I just think he's misinformed and doesn't understand that that evening when this event was actually the afternoon of the first one we first learned of it.
Yeah.
Our detectives were called in after our search and rescue team recognized what they had, contacted our investigative teams. They immediately contacted the Violent Crime Task Force, and their representatives were there. They processed that scene.
They did not process that scene. The FBI did not have any hand in the processing of that scene until 4 days later.
Early the next day, the very next day, within hours of that scene processing, I held a press conference. I think everybody has video of it, where
and there wasn't one FBI agent on that stage. The only person on that stage on February 2nd, let's do press conference, Pima County press conference, and this would be February 2nd. That is the second one. I can tell that that's the second one. I can see the FBI agent in that one. Let's see, is this the second?
we noticed them in the last few days, if not the last few hours. And it was
That's February 5th. So we want February 2nd. We want February 2nd. Where's the February 2nd press conference? That's February 5th. February 2nd. There's February 3rd. And look at that. That's Bullhorn Betty. At least I put the date in that one. Pima County press conference. Nancy Guthrie. February 5th, February 5th, February 5th, February 2nd. Let's look and see if the FBI was there on day one.
We'll get started.
Okay, let's challenge the truth. February 2nd. We all agree that this is the February 2nd press conference. Do we have, oops, you guys can't see. Yeah, you guys can see that right up there. Can we agree that this is a live streamed on February 2nd? Can I get a yay in the chat, please? Yay in the chat, please, that we are looking at the February 2nd press conference. February 2nd. That means the FBI will only assist on what you ask them to do, Nanos. Exactly. Exactly. Too many weird people surrounding this case. Amy, yeah, I agree. We agree. I think that is a good statement to make. I think I like how you say it too, you know. Too many weird people surrounding this case. I agree with that. I agree with that. Okay, so we all agree that we've got a February 2nd interview or press conference here. Let's look. I mean, we can see right there. Okay, let's go back. Let's just go back just a little bit. Okay, let's get this thing. Okay. Wonder why it's doing that. It must be.
We'll get started.
Doesn't look like anybody's in. Does it look like anybody else is in there? We just saw. Let's go back 5 seconds. Oh, it's in the black. Hold on. I'm gonna stop it as soon as it goes. And go. So we see the whole stage right here. Do you see FBI? Does anybody see the FBI there? The guy behind him is his guy. That's his guy. I think that's the major crimes guy or the homicide with no experience in homicide guy, but it's one of those guys. But that right there, that guy back there, that tall man back there, he's Pima County. He's not FBI. Not FBI. Oh, they say no, just Detective Stivers. That's who it is. Detective Stivers. With the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Detective Stivers. Laugh out loud. The way Betty just said, let's challenge the truth. Let's challenge the truth. Chris Nanos' truth. So I think that we can conclude that at this moment, at 9:30 in the morning, on February 2nd, there are no FBIs. There's no FBI representation behind him. There's no photo of Ms. Nancy Guthrie. There's no Annie Tommaso standing behind him. There's no joint press conference with the FBI or the family. There's nothing here. There's Pima County Sheriff, okay? And this is 30 hours. 30 hours. I want to be very, very clear. When he had this press conference at 9:30 in the morning, he has already released the crime scene. Do you see any feds there? So he released the crime scene without one federal agent ever even going into the house, and he wants us to believe that Kash Patel, the FBI director, is lying, but not the man that has 40 years of habitual lying, pathological lying in his history. We're supposed to believe this man here as opposed to Kash Patel. And I know there are people in my chat that can't stand Kash Patel. But you guys are going to have to swallow that jagged pill. Who do you believe? Do you believe Kash or do you believe Chris Nanos? Everything I'm showing you is showing Chris Nanos is a liar, pants on fire, and these are legitimate receipts. These are not my suspicion, my speculation. This is proof in the pudding. There is no FBI agents at 9:30 February 2nd. Now, mind you, law enforcement was called 30 hours before this. So far, 30 hours, we're into this case. No FBI. Proof, pudding. Proof, pudding. Proof, pudding. Pudding. Proof is in the pudding. Here's your pudding. I'm giving Jell-O a plug here. Just letting you know. I expect my 10%. I expect my 10% check. I know. And not only that, but what's the other, like I said, what is the other element? The second shutting down of the crime scene. Let's see. Nancy Guthrie. Crime scene reopened. When was it reopened? February 6th? February 5th. February 5th was when they reopened the crime scene, I think. All right, let's see what we got here. Nancy Guthrie video may have been okay, wait, no, that's what I was looking for. That's not what I was looking for. I was looking for the day that I wanted the image. I wanted the film of them going in that second time. Reopened crime scene. This was February 5th. It was February 5th. I knew it. February 4th. So first, they had to be there. That was first in the morning, second, third, and fourth. So the fourth would have been the fourth day. Not the fourth full day, but it would be the fourth day. Here it is. There it is. This was on February 4th. So this is the second time they shut down the crime scene. This is the second time he said Cash was misinformed. The FBI director is never misinformed. I know. It's the most insane thing I've ever heard. But whatever. So here we go. Here's your other proof. Here's pudding. Proof pudding. Proof pudding. Proof pudding. Proof pudding. All right? Proof pudding. Proof pudding. Proof pudding. Proof pudding. Okay? We got proof pudding. Proof pudding. Proof. So who do you think? Like, we can hate Kash Patel. If we want to. I don't want to hate him. I like him. But if you want to hate him, you can go ahead and hate him. And you can hate him and still acknowledge that he's not the one lying in this argument. Oh, there's Seth. But I will take the FBI investigating Sebastian's case over. I would too. Well, that's exactly what we want, because we know it would give. If this case would be further along if Chris Nanos was step aside and handed this case to the FBI. We all know that. I mean, look how much different the investigation is into Lynette Hooker. She wasn't even in our country when she lost her life. And our feds are so far along with that case, it might be the Coast Guard, but that's a federal agency. And they are so much further along in that case than we are in your son's case or in this case here. And I truly believe that we should be promoting law enforcement to move these cases on up. You know, it shouldn't be pulling teeth. It shouldn't be a reprimand. It shouldn't look bad on a department for doing the right thing by the victim, and when they can't solve it, immediately getting it to somebody that can potentially solve it. Now, if the FBI has it for 6 months, is no further than the sheriff, then they should kick it back down to the sheriff's department. But at the end of the day, they should at least, at some point, take a gander at it after 6 months, and you're nowhere in a freaking file. I think that the feds owe the public a duty. And if they're the only ones that can solve the crime, then they have got to have some more tools to kick these bonehead county sheriffs out of the way when they're stepping on toes, and they could solve the case and do it a lot cheaper and a lot more expediently. So, I don't know. I feel some type of way about it. But there you go, guys. This is February 2nd. There are no FBI agents here. The first time we see FBI agents is on February 4th. The first time. So again, I ask you, you don't have to like Kash Patel, and you don't have to like Chris Nanos. I don't like Chris Nanos. I do kind of like Kash. I mean, I'm not good at making this decision because everybody's going to say I'm biased, and I am in part. But in this respect, I mean, I've got receipts. I've got factual, legitimate receipts that are undisputed. They're only disputed by one person, and that's Pima County Sheriff. He obviously doesn't realize this is all recorded. This is all recorded.
Myself and the special agent in charge from Phoenix and the agent in charge from Tucson are right there on stage with me to answer any questions. So the concept or the representation that the FBI was held off and boy, we wish we'd have been there early on. That's just not even accurate. They were there day one, just as my team.
Bullshit! We just proved it.
Just to follow up on that, because you're referencing Kash Patel's appearance on Fox News, where he had said that if the FBI had been brought in earlier, there could have been more video discovered. I'm wondering kind of more directly what your response is to that and what the status of your relationship is with specifically the FBI director.
Well, I don't know the FBI director. Never met him. So my relationship is what we see or hear as you do
Right.
on the news. But that's fine. He's a busy man. He's got a big job, just as I do. What's more important is what is my relationship, and more important than that, my team's relationship with the local FBI office here that we work with
Right.
every day on all kinds of cases. It's a great relationship. Look, Director Patel, he has information flow to him from across the world, probably.
Hmm.
Just as I get information, I've got
So he's basically saying he's probably getting information by people that are working here with me, boots on the ground, but he's not saying it like that.
1,500 employees, and it gets up to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes that information is filtered. It's not with any kind of intent, ill intent, or anything. It
Of
just
course.
happens. So
Yeah.
I think that Cash Director Patel heard information early on that just was inaccurate, and he certainly doesn't owe me an explanation or
I don't agree with that because we're looking at the evidence. I mean, that's what we need to look at when we don't know who's telling the truth, right? Look at all the facts, look at all the evidence. Well, all the facts show us there was no FBI agent on that stage with Chris Nanos on the 2nd. We did see an FBI agent on that stage with Chris Nanos the afternoon of the 3rd, and we did see first thing in the morning on the 4th them going into the house. So that tells me, at minimum, they were kept out of the house. Maybe not, maybe or kept out of this case. Maybe not for the full 4 days, but at least the first 72 hours or close to that, and that's unacceptable.
a question or anything. He's the director of the FBI. But when the information is put out there that's not accurate, I think it helps, it hurts the case. And so individuals like yourself to come out and ask for accurate information from
Mhm.
me, I never have a problem answering.
And we appreciate you doing so. I want to switch gears a little bit to some of the physical evidence, and I know you're going to be limited as to what you can say on this front. There's been a report that the back door and the back gate were propped open, reportedly with flower pots. Was that true? And if so, was that done for the intruder to make some kind of a faster exit?
So
Good question.
again, a couple of questions there. First of all, you're right. I can't talk to the scene or what's there. Um, I know that's frustrating for everybody. I try to
It's
be as
understandable, I will
transparent with
say.
my
Yeah.
media as I can and
Hmm.
my community, but we do have to protect some of the integrity of the investigation. If that was the case or why that happened or anything, that's all speculative, and we don't get into that. We investigate it, gather all the facts, put together a team, and try to work it from there.
There's also been, again, I know you might have the same answer here, but just in terms of the blood patterns, both inside and outside of the house, not necessarily am I asking you to confirm where the blood was, because I know you probably can't get into that, but did the location of the blood help your investigation in determining perhaps, where she was taken to, or again, just anything that you can tell us there?
But, again, I'm sorry.
It's
Why?
okay.
We ask the questions. I just want to let it, if you're a politician or an officer that comes across this channel and sees this show and stuff like that, I mean, we're always going to ask the question. We expect, I'm sure that as a leader or a sheriff or somebody like that, you are well versed in how to handle questions you don't want to answer. But I think it would be malpractice not to ask the question. We expect that the sheriff is going to say, I can't talk about that, or but like with that one guy, Chad Bianco in California, that was offended by even remotely asking the question, is pretty stupid and ignorant for a politician to act. But as you guys know, I'm not a Chad Bianco fan. I think that he would be terrible for California, and I hope California does not vote for that piece of garbage.
I'm not going to talk about the actual scene or anything of any of the location of evidence that was obtained. Again, my apologies, but I just
No
can't.
problem. No problem. Again, very understandable. 5 months ago with Elizabeth Vargas, you had said, and this is kind of, I think, it's the uncomfortable and unfortunate question but I think it has to be asked. And that was, again, 5 months ago with Elizabeth Vargas on News Nation. You said you believed that Nancy Guthrie was still alive. I haven't seen you, directly answer that recently. Can you tell us kind of what your analysis would be on that front right now?
It's a question that I'm asked often. And I guess my answer to you would simply be this. I understand why people would say she's dead.
Yeah.
I get that. But where's the benefit in my believing she's dead when there's no proof of her death in front of me? I understand the investigation, all the thoughts of her.
I do like him answering this question. I do like him giving us a little insight with what his philosophy is. He's, at least acknowledging that I'm not a dumbass. I do understand the statistics of her being deceased. However, the way the investigation looks right now, that's still subjective. It's an assumption. And we're basing stuff off of fact. So I think that's where it is. But I don't think it's necessarily not factual at this point, especially if you incorporate maybe some expert medical personnel. That's where I'm at. Exactly, Veronica. 6 months later, exactly. So I think that at this point, he's dancing around. I understand theoretically his point, but realistically it's off base in my opinion.
Whereabouts. Everybody has a right to have an opinion and voice.
I agree. I agree. The real me too.
But as the sheriff of Pima County, as the head of the law enforcement here in this community, what is the benefit of the sheriff saying she's dead?
Yeah, of course.
If the family believes that there's hope, that there's
I can guarantee you, based upon everything we have seen out of Savannah Guthrie, that is the last thing that they believe, is that their mother is alive. I can almost guarantee that not one conversation are the Guthries having at this moment that has Nancy being alive. I as grim as that sounds, the family, you can already see the acceptance of Savannah with the fact that her mom's gone. I think that the way he's adding insult to injury by continuing to think that he's giving the family hope. They're a realistic family. I mean, Savannah is a bright person. She knows the statistics. She's an attorney. She's dealt with violent crimes in the past. I mean, I can't think that, even with all of the pressure and everything, I still believe that she has vocalized to the world she knows her mom is with the Lord. Okay? So I feel like him constantly telling her this is not giving her hope. It's probably in a lot of sense frustrating her, because just like I'm aware that depending on the classification, depends on the protocols that are used, depends on the resources that are now available or that trigger through that classification, those are all being those are not being utilized because they haven't triggered yet. So I think it's to the detriment of the case to keep classifying this lady as alive.
Some chance that she might still be with us. Why should I crush that hope?
Right.
There's no evidence to show it. Trust me, if we find something that indicates a burial site or something of that.
You don't need a burial site to consider somebody deceased. At the end of the day, she's an elderly woman. She has no social media activity. She has no activity on her phone or on her bank account. She hasn't been seen or heard since a masked man went inside her house with blood dripping outside of her house, her having a heart pacemaker and needing medication to survive, with all of her medication being at the house. This manipulation strategy is exactly what it is. Manipulation to the public that does not bode with the evidence before us. So if he was following the evidence would lead him to her death, whether or not he finds a burial site, i.e., no body investigation, no body homicide investigation, which they have in the state of Arizona. You would never have a burial site for a no-body homicide investigation. Ever. Why? That's the whole purpose of it being called no-body homicide. These are the ignorant, unprofessional statements by an incompetent criminal sheriff.
Nature. Absolutely. We're going to share that. That's critical. But we're going to share it with the family. And so my
share it with the
personal
family.
beliefs.
Share it with the family. Share it with the family. This man hasn't even spoken to the family based on his own statements at the beginning of this just a few minutes ago. What is he referring to? Share it with the family. He's not even speaking to the family, and that's based upon his own statements, not mine.
Really, that's what they are. I believe that I'm going to support the Guthrie family every way possible. And if they believe she's alive, so do I.
Well, they don't believe she's alive. And I guess if Chris Nanos picked up the phone and talked to the Guthrie family, he would know that. But on his own statements, he doesn't speak to them, doesn't talk to them, doesn't communicate with them, and doesn't provide them updates. And that's based upon his own statements that he said earlier in this. If you guys don't believe me, please rewind back. So guys, that's where we're going to stop for today. Thank you for all being here. I know we got into a deep discussion about flock cameras, kind of unnecessarily. I mean, well, I shouldn't say unnecessarily. I brought it up because I was shocked this morning, and then we got into a deep conversation about this flock camera avenue, and I didn't realize it was affecting so many of our, or, you know, concerning. I shouldn't say affecting, but definitely concerning, causing concern for a lot of the coffee club members in the chat. It actually dominated about an hour of this morning's show that was supposed to be about Nancy Guthrie. So we have to kind of kittle it here. As far as this, we would have been further along, but had it not been for the discussions we had earlier. So I do apologize, but how foolish of me to think that there wouldn't be other people affected by this. And I do think that maybe we should, as a buyers beware, or just, you know, just some good old-fashioned research into these flock cameras to find out what is really truly going on and how are these being implemented, and are they kind of all together throughout the country. Now that's going to cause me a little more heartburn, because now we've got a true tracking system, and that is absolutely out of the purview of government ability. So, and then to find out that this is being carried out by a third-party entity, that a third party can have sensitive information about our movements. I've got huge problems with this. Obviously, people in the chat have huge problems with this flock camera system. So I think we're gonna have a discussion about whether these are good for our country, bad for our country, good in certain areas, bad in certain areas. Like I love technology. You guys know that. You know, I want to keep us safe. I mean, the goal, I think all of our goals is to be safe. But I don't think any of us are comfortable with Big Brother. You know, having some safety measures in place is one thing. Having a balance between safety and privacy is an absolute requirement, because we are not, our constitutional rights doesn't constitutionally protect our safety, but it does constitutionally protect our privacy. So now you're putting, even on public easement, you're now putting recording and monitoring devices in private communities. I'm not okay with that. So it looks like I am supported by quite a few people in here. We've got some people that are in the middle, like, you know, we know we need to have something for protection, but, you know, where's the balance, right? And I think that's where we all need to be discussing, where's the balance of those flock cameras. So I think this is going to be a good discussion. So I'd like to see that discussion had here on this channel, and just don't want to be murdered in my bed. I agree with you, right? We're talking about the Nancy Guthrie case where this poor lady was ripped out of her bed. So, and we've all been screaming, had they turned on the cameras in Pima County, we would be further along in possibly, potentially have an arrest at this point. So I think this is going to be a great debate. I think this is going to be one we're not going to have a whole lot of visual aids, or maybe we'll do a portion of it with visual aids, going over the information, the research, and then opening it up to the public to talk about some really important questions that they may have, because I'm feeling like, I mean, let's be if we were talking realistically, even though I am a major privacy person, we know we're not getting complete privacy. I know, and I tell you guys all the time, I know China has all of our information. You know, like, what's the purpose of a social security card at this point? It has absolutely no worth. It has absolutely no worth at this point, right? So we give up privacy. We have cars with infotainment centers in them that we're paying ungodly amounts of money for, that, you know, law enforcement could get a subpoena and follow us and know exactly what we've done in our private home, you know, our private vehicles. They can get subpoenas to go after our phones and watch what we watch privately. Like, there's some twisted people that have different lifestyle things, you know, but there's still their personal and private information that our government can just go to a court and get a subpoena and know all of that information. And so we know we have these protections, these subpoena protections, and we pray to God we don't have a corrupt judiciary that gives the balance it needs before they sign and execute those subpoenas. And to think that our government can just put a pole up with a camera on it on an easement in private communities and track whoever they want to. Oh, we'll never access the information unless there's a crime, until somebody violates that trust. And we've already had enough examples of that all over the state of Florida. I know right now of 5 different people that have been fired and or arrested from law enforcement around the state of Florida and around this country for accessing this very program and monitoring the movements of private citizens. So clearly, yeah, they do have checks and balances, and yeah, the people were caught and they were fired, but it didn't prevent them from getting the information. They were fired after the incident had already occurred. And by that time, it is too late. So I don't know how I feel about these flock cameras, but I just found one literally 4 doors, 5 doors, 7 doors down from my home. 7 doors down from my home, in a private residential street on a dead-end road. Why does anybody need to be monitoring who is coming and going from a private road, not a private, it's a public road, but a dead-end road in this community, in a private community, in a private, you know, on a private street, like, not private, I'm using the wrong word, because private implies that we own our own road, and we do not. The county owns our own road. But what I mean is, like, it's secluded, I think, is the private. I'm interchanging private meaning secluded, but using, you know, because we have private property rights, so I need to use different terminologies to differentiate so it's not confusing. But it's a secluded, it's you know, it's not it doesn't go straight through. We don't want that either. So I just think that we need to be smart and balance the privacy rights. I don't mind them being on major roadways because we already have, to be honest with you, I mean, I understand the people are anti-flock and stuff like that. I'm not going to go totally anti-flock, but I'm going to say that so far, I don't like a third party having, I think it needs to be government ran, not third party private. I don't like knowing that there could be some misuse on things that we are never even going to be able to monitor. So we'll never know if somebody from one of these like from the Flock company, that if somebody is basically, you know, the third party data. How do we know that they're not selling that to other people about our movements, our comings and goings? And you're saying, oh, I'm sure. How do we know? Nobody has given us assurance that that's not happening. Usually when we have these type of systems, like even our traffic cameras, we have a whole, like command center for our traffic cameras. And they're ran by people we hire to monitor our traffic cameras. It's not a third party doing it. So I don't know. I got a lot of questions. I'm not really happy with this, and I'm definitely not happy to find one that could possibly have monitored my movements. And in this corrupt day of our politics, I don't trust my local government. I'd like to, but I don't. And I don't like seeing something that I've been driving past for the last year or longer, not realizing that every single time I pass it, it is recording my license plate, recording who's in my car, recording that I'm here. And if I pass another Flock camera, it's giving somebody my exact movements around this county. My exact movements around this county. That's dangerous. That's not gonna bode. That's not gonna bode. I hope that we need some federal regulations. This is big. This is too Big Brother for me. This is too Big Brother for me, because you don't even need a subpoena. I'm done. Yeah, no, no. This is subpoena stuff at this point. You got a Flock camera on a dead end road by a major political activist. We're going to have some problems in the county. But I can promise you one thing. That Flock camera that's out here on my road is going to go bye-bye. And I can guarantee that that's going to happen. I can guarantee that's going to happen. So whoever was on Facebook saying that I'm just a keyboard warrior on Facebook, you better recognize. Because you guys are going to find out when I say it, my Flock camera is gone, you're going to say, I knew you'd get it done. And you all know I will. Because I am ready to go to the mattress over this argument. You're getting this Flock camera off my dead-end street. So, Rick, if you're watching, I would start getting your installers to come down here and remove it, because you're going to get a nasty gram from me. Get this Flock camera off my street. Anyways, guys, rock it out with your coffee beans out. Don't forget to be fearless. If you see something, say something. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And until next time, please be safe, but more importantly, kind to one another. And when will we ever know the truth? That needs to be the question. When will we ever know the truth? Even now, even with Wyatt asking Chris Nanos, the criminal sheriff of Pima County, these tough hitting questions. I think Chris Nanos is handling his stuff well. He's a seasoned politician. I can tell he's a seasoned politician. So he is handling his stuff well, and he's answering the questions. But Wyatt's pretty good. This is where journalism needs to be going. And if people from mainstream want to get their reputation back, then go back to the 1970s, 1980s style of investigative journalism. And you will see your whole entire world change. But until, and anything short of that, you're going to keep damaging your reputations and your business model. So, anyways, guys, rock it out. We'll see you in the near future.